Thank you, Chair. My question is about prevention. I've got two granddaughters, one growing up in London and the other in rural Worcestershire. Both seem to be perfectly normal children, but now both have been diagnosed with ADHD. I haven't managed to, both sets of parents are blaming it on the schools, and I haven't managed to find the time to speak to them to ask why they would think that. But I would like to raise a few concerns of my own. The first is the use of mobile phones. And I'm just wondering that whether the online experience is so intense that it's causing young brains to be jumping around from one subject to the other, and that maybe too long or even exposure at all is damaging. My second query and concern, when I was young, which is a long time ago, we used to worry about ban the bomb and nuclear war and stuff like that. These days we have modern concerns such as climate change and gender identity and equality and all the other things. And I wonder whether putting these concerns on young shoulders is causing an excessive amount of anxiety amongst children if they're not introduced in a proportionate sort of way. My third concern is that children are no longer seem to be allowed to fail or come last in races. Now, as we go through life, we're faced with a number of crises, aren't we? The loss of a pet, loss of a relative, loss of a relationship, loss of a job. All these things can be quite dramatic in their impact on our lives. And I worry that not being able to develop coping strategies while you're at school may cause problems later on. Thank you.
I, like Councillor Long and Councillor Kay, am extremely interested in the idea of prevention, and I think it is supremely important. I agree with Councillor Kay on the matter of mobile phones and on the loss of the school of hard knocks. And I would break mobile phones down into different component causes, such as the distortion of social interaction, the obsession with body image, the constant availability of a diet of pornography. If we listen to the media, then we would believe that we have an epidemic of mental malaise amongst teenagers today, which would suggest that in the future we could face a tsunami of more extreme mental illness cases. And I think that really puts an emphasis on the need for prevention. And in order to prevent, to my mind, you need an understanding of cause and effect. So having mentioned some causes, the effects are going to be increasing withdrawal to bedrooms, away from social interaction, are going to be a turning to degrees of violence in relationships and inability to relate to people effectively, and all of that is going to just start a spiral into a dissatisfaction with life. So is there a sound cause and effect analysis of pathways into mental health conditions? And if there is, are there in hand the development of toolkits which would be readily available to start addressing such situations at source, and to make interventions at that time when individuals are inadvertently taking those first footsteps on a path that we really wouldn't want them to go on.
I was lucky enough to go to a governor's meeting this morning in North Solihull, and the things that we discussed in that meeting were mobile phones and how they're affecting children's thoughts on looking into the lessons that they're doing. Mental health, that came up, and also came up was COVID and how it's affecting year 7 students. I've been in a position to watch this cohort go through from primary school into senior school, and I've seen that spike move right through. There's definitely a correlation there. What I want to ask you is, how is the education, the health plan going to affect home educated children? How do they get into that system? And secondly, like it or not, there are some students that have to be have a managed placement, and that could be cross-border between Solihull and Birmingham and Solihull and North Warwickshire. What are your contingency plans to follow these students through into another authority? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to thank Sarah for her contribution and come back to you on the technology point. As a former IT professional, I'll be the last person to discourage the use of technology. I don't think it's about that. I think it's about what the technology is used for. Now, stopping things that are bad for you is an international regulation problem. We ain't going to solve that. But what we could potentially do locally is the equivalent of dietary advice, knowing what's good for you, knowing what's bad for you, and educating people as to why what's bad for you is bad for you. And to my mind, it's like that.
Thank you. Councillor Long.
Thank you, Chair. I was just a bit concerned by some comments that might be taken that perhaps its mental health crisis for children isn't real, but it's just some of the things saying, oh, it's down to phones, or if children were just a bit tougher in my day, we were just more resilient. There is a real mental health crisis with young people, and I think to sort of belittle it and say, well, it's down to phones or people not being tough enough really concerns me. And phones can be as much of a lifeline for children as they can cause problems. I know children who absolutely rely on their phone to give them access to the support they need, to the friends they need, and to take that phone away from them is removing their support mechanism. I just get concerned when I hear all children have to do is toughen up. In my day, it was fine. We got beaten at school, and we just got on with life. It's not like that.
I must admit, I didn't hear it like that. I heard that the early intervention offers are about helping children manage those and therefore building their resilience. That's what I heard. And I assume that is what was meant.
Sorry if I misheard it, but it did seem as if people talk of banning phones in schools, and that is absolutely good, as if there's not also downsides with that. And as much as adults telling people this is what's good for you, you don't necessarily understand how it's used, how they're using. I think we can forget what it's like being younger and trying to find your way through life.
Thank you, Richard. Councillor Rolfe.